Worcester's sometimes called the city of three-deckers. They built the three-deckers here from the end of the Civil War till about the 1930s. And the ones on Providence Street were built by Jewish builders for Jewish tenants, because when the Jews were ready to move to the top of Providence Street, there was nothing there but fields. Worcester was a very busy industrial center, employing thousands of people, thousands of workers. They needed housing so that they could walk to their jobs. And the three-decker was the answer. You get a lot of people in a rather small area.
Who didn't live in a three-decker? The wealthiest people in Worcester started in three-deckers. We lived in a three-decker. The first one I remember was on 27 Mendon Street, and we paid, my mother paid $15 a month rent, believe me, up on, on the top floor. We heated by coal, as everybody knew that. We then graduated to a fancy place for $27 a month.
For a while, I didn't think there was anything but a three-decker, because we lived in a three-decker on Berkeley Street and Granite Street, and then, of course, when we moved into our own house, it was a three-decker also.
That's where I grew up, on Waverly Street, until I was 12, and then we moved to Etna Street, and that was really going up the hill. And I think as you progress financially, you move further up the hill, and then further up the hill, and then over to the west side.
I remember going to Granite Street School, and we all used to walk home for lunch. And I remember walking into my mother's kitchen and smelling. She used to make a lot of Hamburg, and just the smells, you know. And for years, I never had some of those smells. And then I think that we have this coach that comes to the store, and he sells all kinds of stuff. Well, he makes hamburger that smells just the way my mother's smelled. I make it. It doesn't smell anything like it.
I used to go down Woodford Street every single day, you know, on my lunch hour to Providence Street Junior High, where I attended until I went into the high school.
I was born on Harrison Street in the three-decker. Then we moved to Coral Street. We lived across the street from the Jewish home in Aids and Orphans. And then from there we moved to Providence Street, 165 Providence Street. I went to Granite Street School, and then my father started a business on Park Avenue, so we moved over to off of Park Avenue.
Used to play football on the street. The neighbors used to complain that we were making too much noise, but it was always three-deckers, and it was very intimate. But a lot of good, fond memories of when we were young on Woodford Street.
We moved to 155 Providence Street from to Chapin Street. Chapin Street was off of Dorchester Street. And when we moved to Providence Street, the owner of the house was a guy by the name of Mr. Lipson, and he was a painter. And he had just gone over that apartment from top to bottom, new ceilings, wallpaper, paint, varnish on the floors. I walked in there and I thought, my God, we certainly have arrived in this world on the top floor on 155 Providence Street. And I remember the rent was $38 a month. This was in 1934. At that time, the first house on the left, my Uncle Emilger lived there at 127. Uncle Willie lived at 151. We lived at 155. My Aunt Sarah Dame, I think, lived at 169, and my Aunt Fanny Lowe lived at 171.
We played on the street. The only time we went over to Vernon Hill was when we went to the pool. You know, the 6-inch wading pool that we all basically went over to the pool during the summer. You know, there were like always 10, 12 kids in the yard, because from the 3 floors, there were, you know, about 8, 10 kids between the 3 floors.
To have a touch football game on the street itself was not uncommon. Then when you had enough people come along, you'd say, and you're serious about a game, you'd walk over to the park. But the street usually was the area where you had most of the games.
Nobody had any money. We'd walk. I used to walk from Jones Street to the library, way up Elm Street, carry back 12 books, think nothing of it. Didn't have a nickel to get on a streetcar.
it was a big social difference between us and Worcester Academy. It was really, it was, if I can use the word palpable, you could feel it. But at that time, it was like only the 400 could get in there and all that kind of stuff.
We used to go in at night on the grounds and run around that little wooden truck they had.
I lived on Etna Street, and the back of the kitchen of the academy faced my house. And they would get crates of oranges, wooden crates that would come in. And all the kids in the neighborhood would watch. When they would throw them out, we would run as fast as we could to get those crates because we broke them up and we used them in our stove to heat the house. That was very important to us.